How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video on the channel. In this video I'm going to be continuing on with the painting on my C5 Corvette project car. And if you guys are thinking, man, another painting video, yes, I do apologize. I didn't not want to have to make this video, but I made some mistakes, so I'm having to go back and fix them. And then the first part of this video I made some more mistakes, and then I had to go back and fix those mistakes as well. But that's all a part of this video. So I've got one more video after this one, which is all wet sanding, buffing, and washing the car, and then painting is done. But what am I trying to fix in this video? Well, when I first did the touch-up painting on the car earlier this year, I had some pretty gnarly mask lines, and that was due to my inexperience with painting. You can't mask too closely to your repair area, or else you're going to see mask lines from the new thickness of the clear coat and base coat going down, but then also you're going to clearly see the difference in color from the new to the old paint. And that's what you can see here, although this one didn't have to do with masking. This is just a difference in color of the front bumper to the unpainted passenger front fender. A recent viewer actually commented and said that this issue could have possibly been due to the fact that I used a darker primer. I used a very dark gray primer, which was just included as part of the kit with this paint, the color match paint. So with a lighter color like red like this, I probably should have used a very light primer, and that might have definitely helped to eliminate some of the darkness that I saw with the new paint. So I think it was a combination of the current OEM paint being a little sun faded, and then the new paint using that with a darker primer. So I'm just getting all the surfaces prepped here. The goal that I was trying to do with this first part of the video was on this front fender was blend the base coat from the new paint into this fender, so the difference between the bumper and the hood wasn't as apparent. And then I was also sanding down all of the hard mask lines on that passenger door, and then also sanding down some clear coat runs that I had as well. So in this first part of the video here, the base coat you'll see in a second went down really well. Was really happy with it. Didn't get really any defects at all with the base coat. Where I made my mistake was with the clear coat and the methodology of applying the clear coat, which you'll see here in a second. So you can see I sanded down those runs. Now I'm just masking off all of the parts on the car that I don't want to paint, which I ended up painting anyways, probably in the later part of this video. But I learned some good lessons during this process of painting and some basic do's and don'ts. So if you're watching this video and you're a seasoned auto body painter, you're probably laughing at me, but the whole point of this car and me buying a wrecked car from a salvage auction was to try things myself and learn, and if that means making mistakes along the way, so be it. It was a great learning process. So now I've got the whole garage masked up with drop sheets. Don't want to get overspray it on anything or trying to minimize it. So you can pretty clearly see there that was the area that I tried to mask, and it didn't turn out too well. So the other challenge I was working with was that this was in December when I was painting this, and so the temperatures were relatively cold for Southern California. But so to combat that, I had all my base coat and clear coat cans in front of a little space heater to try and keep them warm, and I also had the space heater going to keep the garage at least above the minimum temperature. So just prior to painting, to keep the surface activation for the roughness of the paint surface, I started with 400 grit to prep all the surfaces for good adhesion, and then clean that with isopropyl alcohol. And then I'll be getting on to spraying my first coat of base coat. Had some fun shaking the base coat cans, make sure it's nice and well mixed. And the key, I tell you, the key with painting like this is light, and don't forget your respirator either. Light coats, and so I'm hitting the area where I masked off previously, and I'm trying to blend that to the existing paint on the fender, which this process would have worked really well if I would have done things correctly with the clear coat. So this part of the door, there's a little bit of primer exposed from when I first did it, So that's why I was repainting that part. And then this front fender, I'm obviously trying to blend to the bumper.
Alexa, set a reminder for 10 minutes.
What's the reminder for?
Apply coat 2.
Okay, I'll remind you in 10 minutes. Here is your reminder. Coke 2.
So it's kind of funny, I used my little Amazon Echo Dot or whatever it's called to help me set my time reminders for giving the base coat and clear coat passes and applications ample time to tack up. So now I'm hitting my second coat of base coat.
Reminder, apply code 3, went off 0 minutes ago.
And a third coat for good measure, definitely going heavier now with this. And before I had sprayed the clear coat, this actually looked really well. I mean, there was so much shine just in the base coat itself, which is a good testament to how well this laid down.
Alexa, set reminder for 20 minutes.
What's the reminder for?
Apply first coat of clear coat.
Okay, I'll remind you in 20 minutes.
So this is the third, after the third coat of base, waiting for that to flash off a little bit before hitting it with clear coat. Way better results than trying to mask your tiny little repair area. And then again, all the areas on this front fender I'm trying to blend. So here's another thing. This product right here, a 2K 2-stage clear coat with a catalyst and a hardener basically. This is what will make or break the quality of the paint job.
Here is your reminder. Apply first coat of clear coat.
A 2K clear coat has a much better durability, depth of shine, and just overall look to it. It's going to give you that OEM clear coat look versus a single stage or 1K clear coat that you just get from your hardware stores. It's not going to have that depth of shine and gloss to it. I mean, you might be able to get to that with enough buffing and wet sanding maybe, but this, even out of the can, it just looks so wet and glossy. And then with some wet sanding.
Here is your reminder. Play second chance of clear coat.
And buffing, it can look that much better. So first coat of clear coat was definitely on the lighter side, and this is where I made my mistake. So I was going really heavy, and basically with clear coat, it's very hard to blend clear coat, and this was a lesson I learned, at least researched online. If you're going to spray a panel, you got to spray the entire panel with clear coat. And as you can see, what happened here is the middle part of the panel just above the wheel well looks great. I mean, the reflection out of the can is awesome, but then this top part where basically you get overspray from the clear coat, that's where things went south, especially when I started to wet sand those. But you can see using my flashlight there just straight out of the can. I mean, it was amazing. But then as you go farther up, that's where it looks really gritty and just bad. And that's because that's just all overspray and not direct spray from the can. And I did have some dust nibs throughout each of the panels, but, you know, I'm spraying in my garage, not a HEPA filtered spray booth, you know, with draft, you know, and negative pressure or whatever they call it. So there were no runs there, so that was great. But then again, same problem here. You can see that grittiness off to the left there, which basically was me not completely spraying that area and only going for the area in front of the mirror. But in front of the mirror, you can see that mirror shine already. Same thing with that front fender. I had a very heavy coat of application clear coat on the front part right there. So that turned out great. The color was a lot closer to the front bumper, and then even the line just near the edge of the hood was great. But then as you went down the fender, it got really gritty from just being clear coat overspray. So what happens, I can't remember if I showed in this video or not, but what happens is when you start to wet sand that to prep the surface, you burn through the gritty, you know, partially sprayed clear coat, and then you start eating down into base coat. So that was when I was wet sanding and saw that base coat was coming off, I knew I was in trouble. So this video was a few weeks later, and this is a whole nother day, a whole nother reapplication masking of the car. So basically I had wet sanded, or not wet sanded, I did wet sand, and that's how I found out about the problem. So I had completely stripped all that off, 400 grit. I sprayed the whole panel again with base coat, and this time you can see I clear coated over the entire rear quarter, the door, and the front fender to eliminate that grittiness from clear coat overspray. So I was able to do all of this with 2 cans of that 2K clear coat, so you get a lot of coverage. And then for this area here, because I was running low on the 2K clear, I did still try and do a spot paint job just because it's a smaller area. So I had some hard masking lines to try and get rid of that. You use a spot blender, which basically, from my understanding, melts the existing clear coat. So I had sprayed it on pretty heavily right there. It's by no means perfect, but it looks way better than what it did before. And then while I was at it, I also resprayed both of the headlight lids. So I had that same grittiness issue on the headlight lid I painted previously because there were some rubbing issues from the headlight moving up and down, so you can't spot blend that. And then this is the replacement lid that I got from a parts car that I off eBay from one that wasn't included with the car, so that was going to look completely different because it wasn't painted with the rest of the car, so it was going to be a little bit lighter, so I just decided to paint that as well. So now the paint's drying, it's all done. Trying to get the fumes out of the garage. This stuff lingers for a while. So this is now later, after letting things basically cure and harden for I think about 2 days. Some people say you can start wet sanding within 24 hours. I gave this stuff a little bit extra time. And that's what really makes the difference with the 2K clear coat, is because it has that catalyst and hardener in it, it's just a lot more durable of a clear coat. So it's going to, one, be able to wet sand better, and then it's going to hold up way better to the sun over the years. So now you can see the whole panel is just nice and wet looking, and with that clear coat, this is obviously before even wet sanding and buffing, so I was super stoked that this finally turned out. But I definitely learned my lesson the hard way in that you cannot, blend clear coat, or at least if you do, you have to use some special methods, and then even sometimes that spot blender, but you can't just leave it open because then the clear coat the overspray will land and then you get that grittiness. So you can see now the whole panel looks nice and glossy and wet, just even out of the can. So again, testament to the quality of the cans. I was really happy with the results from this, the paints I got from ERA Paints. I bought all of it through Amazon, through their Amazon web store, and I'd say overall the paint is a pretty dang close match for the car being 23 years old now. So now I'm going to be pulling off all the masking tape and kind of see the fruits of my labor here. So there are little bits from the masking tape on this area, but nothing that a little bit of wet sanding and buffing couldn't fix. But it definitely looks way better. I can't remember if I already said this or not, but one other big lesson that I learned throughout this process is be careful of the area you choose to try and respray. If it's just a little nick, you're better off with maybe like a touch-up pen and then like a little dab of clear coat. If you try and spray it, what happened to me, and from what I've read other people, what happened with them online, is that your repair area quickly grows. I had a few parts on this car, particularly the driver door. I was just a little nick and scuff that I probably could have gotten away with just using a touch-up pen, and I decided to spray it, and I ended up basically spraying half the door. So just be wary of your plan of attack, and that your repair area all the way from your body work to your paint work it could likely grow in size, and then you might end up painting the whole side of the car like I did. But you know what, it was a good learning experience. Like I said, that's why I bought this car. If you're a seasoned painter and you're cringing at all the mistakes I made, it's okay. I'm not by any means a professional. This was all in efforts to try and learn something, and I definitely did. Do I want to do this for a while, or do I want to do this again? Not for a while, let's say. Painting is a lot of work. It's a lot of laborious work that just takes a lot of time. So this is the finished product before wet sanding and buffing, and there's definitely some orange peel to be knocked down, and I got a few runs just below the door handle right there. But in the next video I'll be doing all of the wet sanding, cutting, buffing, and waxing, and you'll see just how awesome this car has transformed from how it looked when I got it. And the camera here isn't doing it completely justice. If anything, the paint looks a little bit more orange just from the lighting, but this torch red really pops, especially the new paint that I got from the guys at ERA Paints. They didn't sponsor me or anything. I paid for all the paint out of my own pocket, but they were definitely supportive in helping me throughout the build when I had some issues with some of the cans leaking. So they're an awesome little family-owned business up in Oregon. So if you guys have any type of paint projects for your project car, definitely hit them up. But as you can see, as I'm panning across the car here, like the reflection that I got just out of the can was pretty remarkable. So overall, I was super stoked with how this turned out. So this is the paint that I used. The WA 9075 paint code for torch red for Chevy, and ERA Paints are the ones that they mix it up and then put it in these cans, and again I bought it off their Amazon store. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know painting is not always the most fun thing to watch on a YouTube video, but it's been such a huge transformation for this build, and I got one more video to wrap up the painting process, and then it's going to be on to a lot more 3D printing and fun mods for this car. So thanks again guys for watching. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next one.